Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing fine. And this is our third week on this course. The first week was just an introduction. We covered the meaning of the title of the course, the word literary and literary theory, criticism. The second week, we covered Plato's theory. We started with the theories, and the first theory we tackled um, was Plato's theory. We called it the moral theory. It also goes by the name of didactic theory. Today, we are going to take a look at the second theory. We are, of course, covering what we call the classical theories, uh, and these are four major theories. So today's theory is called the Cathartic Theory. And Aristotle was also an ancient Greek philosopher. He was, in fact, Plato's student. And because he's Plato's student, we expect him to follow Plato's theory and follow the principles that his teacher taught him. And that's exactly what he did. He followed Plato, but not to the letter. As we will see, he partially disagrees with Plato. And you remember Plato's theory was expressed in his book, The Republic. We discussed The Republic by Plato last week. We said The Republic was a book not written about literature. It was written as a social and political document for the education and edification of princes. Plato uh, meant this book to be a guide. Plato wanted the Republic to be a guide for the kings, for the future kings, a guide to help them build an ideal state or an ideal society. So he gave them all the do's and don'ts of a good ruler. So the book was not about literature, but it said something about literature. Plato had his say on literature. There were just a few sections about literature, and we took only those sections because they were important for our course. But this book by Aristotle, Poetics, is different because Poetics, this book was written by Aristotle. It's different. It's not the same as a Republic because this book is all about literature. It's entirely about literature. So it's a very important document. In fact, this is we can consider this book as the first critical treatise or the first critical book about literature, unlike Plato's Republic. So this book is all about literature, and you can see the title, Poetics, so it's about poetry. And again, when these philosophers, uh, when they refer to poetry, in fact, it means literature. We discussed this issue last week. We said because poetry was the dominant genre at that time, they only had poetry and drama. They didn't have short story and novel. But even their drama was poetic, used poetic language. So that's why they always refer to poetry. Okay, so this book is our source, our main source for today's lecture, where we discuss this theory, the Cathartic Theory. This table shows the differences between and the similarities between Plato and Aristotle. Notice that Plato said, this is what Plato said as we discussed it last week. He says poetry should teach a moral lesson. Well, Aristotle said, okay, he agreed, he totally agreed with Plato on this point. Aristotle also said poetry should have or should teach a moral lesson. He did not disagree with his master. He totally agreed with his master. And Plato also says that poetry arouses negative emotions. And that's why poets should be banned and banished from the Republic, you remember? Well, Aristotle also says, okay, I agree, poetry arouses negative emotions, but when poetry arouses negative emotions, you get rid of these emotions. So poetry gets rid of negative emotions by arousing them. In other words, he agreed with Plato that poetry arouses negative emotions, but poetry said that's bad. Poetry, when poetry arouses negative emotions, that's bad. Aristotle says, no, it's good. Poetry arouses negative emotions, that's right, but it's something good. Why? Because when you feel these negative emotions, you get rid of them. And when you get rid of them, they're outside your mind, outside your soul and your body. So your body is purified. So this is the point. That's why we say Aristotle partially agrees with Plato, or partially, disagrees, not totally. This is, in fact, his main contribution. This is Aristotle's contribution. It's the point where he disagrees with Plato. Because if he completely agrees with Plato, then there is nothing new about his theory. There is no need to study Aristotle. There's nothing new. Every theory must have something new. So what's new about Aristotle's theory? What's new is the point he disagrees with Plato. And that's the point. Now, we're going to examine this point in detail. What does it mean? Aristotle borrows a term from medicine at that time. In ancient Greek medicine, there is a term which is catharsis. So catharsis, the word catharsis, is a Greek word, and it's originally a medical term. It means when the body, the human body, gets rid of extra temperature, extra high temperature in times of fever. You know, when you have fever, it means there is a lot of high temperature in your body, and your body needs to get rid of this extra high temperature, because if you keep it inside you, all this high temperature, it's going to kill you. So you have to find a way to get it out, get rid of this extra temperature. And what do we do in order to get rid of this extra temperature? We use pads, wet pads. We place pads on the forehead, on the head, on the arms, on the legs, but especially on the head. Why? Because, it's a scientific fact that the head is the warmest place in the body. I mean, this is a fact. Whether you have fever or not, even in normal conditions, the head is always the highest. The warmest place in your body. That's why if you want to know if somebody has fever or not, you put your hand on their head, because it's always the warmest part in the body. So when you place these wet pads on the head, on the forehead, what do these wet pads do? They absorb the extra high temperature from your body. So they help you to get rid of this extra negative. This high temperature, the extra high temperature, is negative, and your body needs to get rid of it. So these wet pads help you to absorb them out of your body. This process is called catharsis in medicine. In ancient medicine, it's called catharsis. So catharsis is actually a Greek term which derives from medicine, and it means getting rid of negative, extra high temperature from your body in times of fever or disease. So is the original meaning of catharsis clear? The term catharsis and where it comes from. Is it clear? Okay, very good. Great. So Aristotle borrows this term from medicine and he applies it to literature. He borrows this term from medicine and he applies it to literature. You see, but before literature, let's talk about everyday life. In everyday life, people experience catharsis. Like when there is a lot of negative feeling in you, you try to take it out on objects around you. For example, when they are angry, and they slam the door very hard, or they break dishes or something. This is an expression of anger. Why? Because there is too much anger inside you, so you want to get it out. You take it out on by shouting, by uh, breaking dishes or something. Or, for example, take video games. Some people, do this when they are playing video games and they get angry or they lose. They lose. So this is what they do. This is catharsis. They are getting rid of the negative feelings which are inside them. Okay, so but you see, I'm not saying that this is something good. All right, catharsis is good. Catharsis is good, but there are two ways of getting rid of negative emotions inside you. There is always a positive way and a negative way. A negative way of releasing these emotions is by, as I said, slamming the door, shouting at people, beating people, breaking dishes. But this is negative catharsis. But there is also positive catharsis. Some people, when they are angry, for example, they go out jogging or take a walk, right? They take a walk or they watch a movie, like they watch a horror movie or any kind of movie, stand-up comedy. Maybe they listen to some music, or they talk to a friend, or they read a book, or they straighten up the house or cook. Some people, when they say, when I'm angry, I go and make a cake or make pastries, or make some cocktail juice, just to forget my anger, to calm down. Now, this is positive catharsis. It's positive catharsis, but slamming the door, breaking dishes, or drinking alcohol to forget, or to get rid of your anger, or smoke, or this is negative catharsis. So there's always, a positive way of getting rid of your extra negative emotions, and a negative way of doing it. Some people, for example, watch movies, and they watch horror movies. Why? Although they feel scared, but they enjoy getting scared. Why? Because they release this negative feeling of fear. Fear is a negative feeling. So by feeling scared when you watch a movie, you get rid of this fear inside of you. And that's why many people, they enjoy watching horror movies, even though they make them scared. So this is one way of releasing negative emotions. So it's like when you are angry. It's just like a kettle full of steam, and you have to steam off even this, we use this term in English, to steam off your anger. If you don't do it, if you bottle it up, if you keep it inside of you, it's going to kill you. You're going to blow up and die. You'll explode, right? So you need a way out for these feelings. You need a channel to release these negative feelings. Well, I'm not inviting you to release your feelings in a negative way. So one of the important principles is self-control. You have to exercise self-control. In other words, you don't have to slam a door or shout or break dishes in order to feel fine. No, you can. You have to train yourself to be like a cold fish. You have to train yourself to stay calm even in moments of anger. And by the way, it's a good thing if you look around you in real life, like today, you can do it today. Look around you, and the people around you, think about them. Analyze their personality. Ask yourself this question: what does each one of them do in such moments when they have too many feelings bottled up inside of them, when there's too much anger? Every person has a method or a unique way of expressing this anger. Some people, as I said, they break things around them. They start shouting. They start making arguments. Some people pick quarrels. Well, others express it in a very, calm manner. Some of them like to exercise, physical exercise, go out jogging. Others like to, for example, eat. I've met people who say, when I'm angry, I eat and I feel better after I eat. Every person, so examine their personalities individually and see which person does what. Some of them have a negative catharsis, others have positive catharsis. This is a positive way of releasing your feelings, engaging in art or painting. Some people, when they are not feeling okay, and they want to experience this catharsis by releasing negative feelings inside them, they paint, they draw pictures, they express their ideas through paintings. And this is, by the way, this is positive catharsis. You're not hurting anybody. Uh, and also, you are hitting two birds with one stone, because you are releasing these negative feelings inside you. And at the same time, you are producing art. You're being creative. So this is very good. This is positive catharsis. Another example of positive catharsis is reading stories, or reading literature, or writing literature, because catharsis cuts both ways, for writers and readers at the same time. If you have negative emotions, you can express them by writing a story or by reading a story. In both ways, you are releasing these negative emotions. So, Aristotle, in his book Poetics, he refers to literature as a type of positive catharsis. And specifically, he writes about tragedy. He gives an example of tragedy. He says, this is what Aristotle says in his book, Poetics. He says, when people go to the theater and watch a tragedy, they experience catharsis, because this tragedy will help them release all the negative feelings inside them. And when these negative feelings are taken out, absorbed out of their mind and soul, this means their mind, their soul, their body will be purified and healthy, will be restored to normal health. This is the use of literature. This is the function of literature. Literature is like a cure. It's like a therapy. So according to Aristotle, literature is like a therapy. It has a therapeutic function. It's a cure because it helps you experience catharsis, and it is a positive catharsis because nobody gets hurt. You know, it's tragedy, it's just acting, so nobody gets hurt. There is an ancient Greek writer, playwright, dramatist. His name is Sophocles. He wrote a very important tragedy, and that is the title is King Oedipus. Oedipus Rex, which means King Oedipus. It's about a king. His name is Oedipus. And Aristotle, in his book Poetics, refers to this example. He examines this tragedy as the best example of catharsis. So Aristotle, in his book Poetics, examines this tragedy written by Sophocles as the best example of his theory of catharsis. But before we examine this play, I would like you to, if you there is a movie based on this tragedy. Just click here. It will take you. This link will take you to the YouTube video, the movie, which is based. There are several movies based on King Oedipus's story, but I think this is the best, the closest to the original text. So you can click this link and go to the YouTube video where you can watch the movie whenever you have time. Let me just briefly sum up this story. It's important to summarize it, to know the story, because it will help us understand Aristotle's theory of catharsis. The story begins with a king and queen in the ancient city of Thebes in Greece. So the setting is ancient Greece. In that city, there was a king and queen, Laius and Jocasta. So Laius and Jocasta are the king and queen of Thebes. One day they had a baby boy. And in those days, people believed in oracles and prophecies and superstition. And they had pagan gods. They did not have one god. They had several gods and goddesses that made up the Greek mythology. And every god or goddess had a temple. And every city worshipped or favored one of the gods. So anyway, the king and queen, they went to a temple, and the priest in the temple, the soothsayer of the temple, told them about a prophecy. The priest said that your baby boy will grow up and will kill his father and mother. So this was the prophecy that of course, this baby boy is Oedipus or Oedipus. Sometimes you can pronounce it as Oedipus. Some people pronounce it Oedipus, others Oedipus. It's the same. So the prophecy was that this baby boy will grow up and will kill his father and marry his mother. This was the prophecy. And in those days, people believed in prophecies. In order to prevent this fate, uh, in order to, prevent this fate from taking place, the parents decided to do something. They decided to get rid of this baby. They didn't want their baby to, grow up and kill his father. And so they said, we have to get rid of the baby. We're going to kill this baby. So what did they do? They gave this baby to a shepherd, and they asked the shepherd to leave him in the desert to die. So the mother, Queen Jocasta, she gave her baby Oedipus to this shepherd, and she said, "This is my baby. Take it to the desert. Leave it there to die." So the shepherd took this baby, but he felt very sorry for it. So he did not leave it in the desert. He gave it to a servant from another city. So he gave it to a servant from another city. The other city is Corinth. So Corinth is another city in ancient Greece. So we have now two cities, Thebes and Corinth. So this shepherd gave the baby boy to a servant from another city, the city of Corinth. And this servant gave it to, a husband and a wife from the city of Corinth to take care of it. So this means that now we have new parents for Oedipus who are not his real parents. They are adoptive parents. They adopted the baby and he grew up. He grew up, but they did not tell him the truth. The new parents did not tell Oedipus that they are not his real parents. So Oedipus thought that they were his real parents. Time passed by and Oedipus grew up and became a very clever, strong man. And one day he heard a prophecy in his city of Corinth. He heard the same prophecy that his fate is to kill his father and marry his mother. Again, he believed in it. Those people, believed in every prophecy they heard. So he was shocked and he didn't want this to happen. So he decided to run away from his parents for their good. I mean, he was not running, he was not escaping because he was doing, because of a bad intention. No, it was done in good intention. He didn't want to kill his father, so he decided to run away. When he ran away, he had good intentions in running away, not bad intentions. He was doing something good. So he said, I'm going to run away, and it's not enough to leave them and live in the same city. I have to run away to leave the entire city, to be as far away as possible from my parents in order to prevent this prophecy from taking place. So he ran away, and where do you think he went? He took this journey from Corinth to Thebes. He went to Thebes. In fact, he went to Thebes thinking that he is escaping from his parents. But in fact, what was happening is he's getting closer and closer to his real parents, right? But without knowing it. He didn't know that. Now, something happened on the way in this journey. He left Corinth and he went to Thebes. On his way to Thebes, he met an old man with guards, and they asked him to move away, and one of the guards hit Oedipus. They were very insolent, with Oedipus. They shouted at Oedipus, and there was a big argument. So there was this big fight, this big quarrel, and Oedipus is a very strong man. So he got very angry, and this is one of his problems, by the way. He is quick to anger, Oedipus. So he got very angry, and he killed everybody there. Everyone, including the old man. Only one slave survived, who managed to escape. He went back to Thebes. So guess who this old man he killed was? This old man that Oedipus killed was no other than his father, his dad, who is actually the king of Thebes. And after he killed, of course, he didn't know. And after he killed him, he continued his journey to Thebes. And when he arrived in this city of Thebes, there was a big monster guarding the city of Thebes. Actually, not guarding, but terrorizing the city. This monster, that was called the Sphinx, was terrorizing the city of Thebes. And they didn't know how to get rid of this monster, because this monster had a riddle, and nobody solved this riddle. And the only way to get rid of this monster is by solving this riddle. So because Oedipus is a very clever man, he managed to solve this riddle for the monster, and the monster therefore decided to leave this city. So this means Oedipus saved the city from this monster. And everybody was happy in Thebes because Oedipus saved them from this terrible monster. And they said, "You are a very strong man, and you are a very intelligent man, and we don't have a king. Our king is dead." Of course, they don't know that he's the one who killed their king. So they offered him the throne. They said, "Since you are very intelligent, very strong, and you saved us from this monster, why don't you become our king?" He accepted the offer. He became a king. And of course, the king, since he's a king, he should do what? Marry the queen. Exactly, that's right. So he married the queen, and by marrying the queen, why, you know, who's the queen? This queen is no other than his mother. So by killing his father on the way to Thebes, he fulfilled half of the prophecy. Half of the prophecy was fulfilled. And the other half of the prophecy was fulfilled when he married the queen, Jocasta, the queen of Thebes. Now, something happened after he married the queen. There was a disease spreading all over the city. A disease started to spread all over the city, like a super virus, killing everyone, and nobody knows the cure. Nobody knows, the cure for this disease. And nobody knew what to do. So the best thing to do was to consult the gods. And the gods told the people of the city through the soothsayer, the priest. Of course, the gods do not speak to the people directly. There's always a priest, like this priest here, the soothsayer Tiresias. The gods do not, speak to the people directly. They speak through the priests. This is, their religious system. This is what their religious system says. So the priest told the people that this plague, this disease, this pestilence they are suffering from is because of one man. One man in the city is a corrupt person. And in order to get rid of this disease, you have to get rid of this man. That's the only way to make peace with the gods and to get rid of this disease. So Oedipus said, I have to search for this man, find him, and get rid of him in order to save my people. Of course, and he started searching for this man. The irony is, he was searching for whom? Whom was he searching for? Himself. That's very ironic. He was searching for himself. He's the one who's corrupt because he killed the king and who was his father, and he married the queen who was his mother, so which is a sin. Therefore, he should leave the city of Corinth so that the gods will make, will help them get rid of this, remove this disease from them. Anyway, so he started this large-scale investigation, searching for this man, and he brought everyone and witnesses and all that. And uh, this fortune teller, this soothsayer, his name is Tiresias. He told him that you are the man you're searching for yourself, because he's a fortune teller. So he knows the truth, and he said, you are searching for yourself. You are the corrupt person. And at the beginning, he didn't believe him. He said, you are lying. You want to get rid of me in order to get the throne for yourself and for Creon, my brother-in-law. He didn't believe him at first. He accused him of conspiracy against the crown. But later on, investigation after investigation, interrogation after interrogation, and bringing a lot of witnesses, he found out that uh, his parents in Corinth were not his real parents. He found out that that he was actually uh, the baby boy who was given to the shepherd in order to get rid of him. And he brought the shepherd and the servant as witnesses, and they told him the truth. He knew the truth, and his mother also knew the truth. When Jocasta, the queen, knew this truth, she immediately killed herself. She committed suicide because she couldn't really endure the pain and the shock. And when Oedipus knew this truth, he also wanted to commit suicide, but he changed his mind. He wanted to kill himself, but then he changed his mind. Now, why did he change his mind? He said, death is not enough as a punishment for me. This is what he said. He said, like, death is punishment. Okay. But after you die, you don't feel any pain. So it's not enough. He wanted more severe punishment than that. So he said, I have to suffer before I die. It's not enough to die. I should suffer and then die. So he blinded himself. He took out his eyes uh, and decided to go out to the desert until he dies. In this way, he's going, it's like double punishment or double suffering. It's pain plus death, not just death, but pain before death. So he thinks that suffering suits him better than just death. Let's now go back to Aristotle. This play was given by Aristotle, was examined in his book Poetics as the best example of his theory of catharsis. Because this tragedy helps us release negative feelings. Now, according to Aristotle, there are many negative feelings which need to be released. But the two most dangerous feelings, the top dangerous feelings, according to Aristotle, are pity and fear. Of course, there are other feelings like which are negative, like jealousy, envy, anger. But pity and fear, according to Aristotle, are the worst negative feelings that we need to get rid of. Why? Why does he why does he say why does he focus on these two feelings? Because Aristotle, as I said, was Plato's student. And Plato was thinking of an ideal ruler, an ideal king. Aristotle thought, like Plato, that these two feelings will make kings make wrong decisions. Because you see, what keeps you from making the right decision? Either because you're afraid, so you hesitate and you pass the wrong judgment because you're afraid to pass the right judgment. Afraid of what? Afraid of the people, afraid of other kings, afraid of other countries, um, afraid of powerful people, or you feel pity, like you pass the wrong judgment because you feel sorry for someone. So these two feelings, pity and fear, keep you from making the right decision and achieving justice. This is why Aristotle said pity and fear are the most dangerous negative feelings which we have to get rid of, because he was thinking of the Republic. He was thinking of ideal kings. So what happens is this, according to this theory, when the audience or the reader reads a story or watches a story, we identify, we as audience, we as readers, when we read a story or watch a movie or watch a tragedy, we identify ourselves with the hero. Now, what does it mean we identify ourselves with the hero? It means we feel his feelings. When the hero feels sad, we feel sad. When the hero feels happy, we feel happy. When the hero feels bored, we feel bored. When the hero feels afraid and scared, we also feel afraid and scared. But of course, Aristotle did not say comedy. He said tragedy, because in a comedy, the hero feels happy, so we feel happy. Happiness is not a negative feeling. But in a tragedy, the hero feels sad, so we feel sad. This sadness, this pity, this fear is these are negative feelings. That's why Aristotle gave you an example of tragedy for catharsis, not comedy. So when the hero feels sad, we feel sad. And when we feel sad, we get rid of this feeling. We purify our, because catharsis as a term means purification. The meaning of the word catharsis in ancient Greek is purging, cleansing, or purification. We purify our mind, our soul, our body from negative feelings. When we feel pity, we get rid of pity. When we feel fear, we get rid of fear. And when we get rid of fear and pity, our mind will be purified because only the positive feelings will remain after we get rid of all the negative feelings. And another key term here is identify. Identify. We identify ourselves with the hero. It means we feel everything he feels. These feelings are transferred from the hero to the audience or reader. And according to the Cathartic Theory, when we identify ourselves with Oedipus, of course, Oedipus, by the way, had 4 children from the queen, Jocasta, 2 girls and 2 boys. And at the end, at the end of the play, after he decided to leave the city, he asked Creon, who is his brother-in-law, he asked him to take care of his children. So he said goodbye to his children and left to the desert. And he said to Creon, take care of the city, take care of my children, and don't let them have the same fate. And he even, there's a nice speech where he says, they are both my children and my brothers. Now the question is, when we identify ourselves with Oedipus, how do we experience pity and fear? We feel pity for Oedipus, because he does not deserve his fate. He does not deserve his fate because he was tricked by fate. The gods tricked him. The gods told him that you're going to kill your father and marry your mother. But they did not tell him that the people these parents are not your real father and mother. They left him like that. And even when he decided to leave the city, they didn't tell him, no, these are not your real parents. So the gods tricked him because they gave him half the truth, not the whole truth, only half the truth. So we feel sorry for him because he didn't know what he was doing. And we feel sorry for him because of his punishment, his self imposed punishment. So this is why we feel pity for him. Okay, why do we feel fear? We feel fear because of the terrible things that happened to him. And, we feel afraid because what happened to him and because what he did, the killing of his father, the marrying of his mother, the plucking out of his eyes, his fate to die, his mother committed suicide, all these events make us feel fear. And we also feel afraid because we don't want what happened to him to happen to us. There's always this probability that what happened to him might happen to us. It doesn't mean that we were also going to kill our fathers. No, it means that just like fate tricked him, Fate might also trick us. Just like because he misjudged his circumstances, maybe we will also misjudge our own circumstances. We all have circumstances and issues. Maybe we're going to make the wrong decisions without knowing it. That's the problem. So this is also a reason for being afraid that what happened to him might happen to us, but in different situations. So this is why we feel pity and fear at the same time when we watch this play, according to Aristotle. This is what Aristotle says. And there's something else about this play we didn't discuss. We are discussing this play from a cathartic point of view. But, I mean, we are applying the theory of catharsis to this tragedy, King Oedipus. But let's apply the moral theory to it. Because, as I said, Aristotle agrees with Plato that literature should teach a moral lesson. So when we apply the moral theory, Plato's theory, to this play, we will find out that Oedipus committed 3 moral mistakes. The first mistake is he's tried to avoid his destiny by running away from his parents. This is a moral mistake. Why? Because his fate is to kill his father and marry his mother. Now, he should accept his fate instead of escaping from his fate. What's the meaning of accept his fate? It doesn't mean, okay, since the prophecy is I have to kill my father, then let me go and kill him now. Right? No, this is not the meaning of accepting your fate. The meaning of accepting your fate is you just take it as it is. Wait for your fate. Don't run from your fate. Because when you run away from your fate, it means you are disobeying the gods. Because who makes fate? The gods make fate. So if the gods tell you this is your fate, and you say, oh, no, this is not going to happen, I will not let this happen. It means you are challenging the gods. And it's a sin, according to Greek religion, ancient Greek religion. It's a sin to challenge the gods. When he tried to escape from fate, it means he is tricking the god. He is trying to fool the gods, to play games with the gods, to cheat, and to try to prove that he is smarter than the gods. He's outsmarting the gods, and it's also a sin. So it's a sin to avoid your fate, because it means it's a sign of disobedience. It's a sign of disrespect for gods, and it means you are outsmarting the gods, challenging the gods, tricking the gods, which is also a sin. If he stayed where he was, nothing of this would have happened. If he accepted his fate and stayed at home, this wouldn't have happened. So he was punished according to Greek religion, ancient Greek religion. He deserves his punishment because he tried to challenge the god, which is a sin. So what happened was a punishment for his sin. This is how the ancient Greeks looked at this play. Today, no, we look at this play as it's not fair. You see, this is not fair. What's happening to him is not fair from a modern point of view. But from an ancient Greek point of view, he deserves his punishment. After we discussed catharsis, the theory of catharsis, in today's lecture, what do we learn? How do we apply this theory to any text? How do you, if I, for example, give you a short story, or a play, or a poem, or a novel, and I ask you to apply the cathartic theory to it, how would you go about doing that? For example, somebody asks you to write an essay about a novel and apply the cathartic theory to the novel. If you want to take a text and apply this cathartic theory to it, the first thing you do, you try to find or search for the negative feelings, not necessarily pity and fear. Aristotle focuses on pity and fear, but you can take any negative feelings. And then you show how these feelings are released in the audience, how this text helps us as readers or as audience to get rid of them. Just like what we did right now with this play, King Oedipus, the way we analyze it, you can use the same way to analyze any text. But there's a problem, there's a little problem. Remember, research is not art, research is science. Research is science. When you say something, it should be scientifically proved. So what's the problem with the application of this theory? The moral theory is very easy to apply. You know, all you have to do is you judge by ethics, moral standards, or religion. What are the moral lessons that are already there? You just apply them to the text and see. It's just like matching. See how much of it will match with the text. But with this theory, the cathartic theory, how can you prove your point? So can you tell me this is my question. What's the problem with application of this theory? You need to show that these negative feelings are released in the audience or in the reader. You need to show that these negative feelings are experienced by the reader or readers. How are you going to prove that? Let me give you a clue. I'll ask you a question which is at the same time a clue. Do you think analyzing the text is enough to apply this theory to the text? Can you apply this theory to a text by only analyzing the text? This is both a question and a clue. So you have to figure out the difficulty in the application of the cathartic theory. What do you think is where do you think is the difficulty in applying this theory? Unlike the moral theory, this is more difficult to apply. Why? I cannot guess what readers will feel. Well, I am a reader. Yes, the critic, when you write an essay applying the cathartic theory to a text, you can consider yourself a reader. So you talk about yourself. But remember, as I said, research is science, not art. You know, as a reader, you're not enough. You are only one reader. You need a big sample. You are not enough as a sample for research. You need a bigger sample. You have to bring readers, like say 100 readers, 50 readers, and give them questionnaires or surveys or forms to fill. And from their answers, you get feedback on their reactions and their responses to the text. And this is how you collect data about the readers, and you analyze this data in terms of the cathartic theory. So when you design the questions for the readers, the questionnaire or the survey for the readers, they should be designed in terms of catharsis based on Aristotle's theory. And then after you get feedback from the readers, you analyze the data in order to support your analysis. This is how you support your findings. So are you following me? Because you cannot only talk about yourself. You will say the reader, and you cannot guess. You cannot say readers feel pity and fear. How do you know readers feel pity and fear? You will say, well, I'm a reader. Yes, you are a reader, and you feel pity and fear when you read this text, but you're not enough. You're only one person. And in science, in scientific research, a sample cannot be based on one person. It should be a larger sample. Okay, very good. So which one is harder to apply? Plato's theory or Aristotle's theory? Aristotle's theory. Why? Because Plato's theory is only concerned with the text, but Aristotle's theory is concerned both with the text and the reader, the audience. So you have to analyze both, which makes it more difficult to apply. Thank you very much for attending. See you next week, and goodbye.